They laughed at her before she ever touched the controls. Not the friendly kind of laughter either, the sharp, careless kind that sticks to your ribs and rattles around long after the sound fades. It echoed across the sun-bleached tarmac as she knelt beside the Apache's open engine bay, grease streaked across her forearms, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back with a fraying black band. Someone muttered, "Just a mechanic," loud enough for her to hear. Another voice followed, dripping with amusement. "Hope she knows which end is the rotor." She didn't look up. She never did. Her name was Chief Warrant Officer Elena Morales, though almost no one used it. On this base, she was simply the mechanic. The one who worked longer hours than anyone else. The one who knew every bolt, every whine in the gearbox, every vibration that didn't belong. The one pilots trusted with their lives but never with their respect. They didn't know her story. And they didn't ask. Elena had learned long ago that explanations were wasted on people who had already decided who you were. So she let her hands speak instead, steady, precise, unshaking even in the desert heat. She closed the engine panel, wiped her palms on a rag, and stepped back as the Apache's systems hummed to life. Perfect, as always. Across the tarmac, Captain Reynolds watched with narrowed eyes. He was one of the base's top Apache pilots, confident to the point of arrogance, his flight suit always immaculate. He had logged thousands of hours in combat and wore those hours like a badge of superiority. Mechanics were necessary, sure, but replaceable. And women mechanics. He didn't say it out loud, but his smirk did enough talking. "Hey Morales," he called. "If this bird drops out of the sky, I'm hunting you." A few pilots chuckled. Elena met his gaze for half a second. Her eyes were calm, unbothered. "She won't," she said quietly. Reynolds snorted and climbed into the cockpit. The Apache lifted off minutes later, slicing the air with lethal grace. Elena watched it disappear into the haze, her expression unreadable. Only when it was gone did she allow herself a slow breath. She had flown that exact aircraft once before. Not in the open, not with an audience. Years ago, in another life, under circumstances she didn't talk about. Elena hadn't always been a mechanic. She had entered the military as a pilot candidate, top of her class, sharp instincts, natural feel for the machine. Instructors called her gifted, but talent, she learned quickly, didn't protect you from politics. A training accident that wasn't her fault. A superior officer who needed someone to blame. A quiet recommendation to redirect her skills. They didn't kick her out. They buried her instead. Maintenance division. "You're good with machines," they told her. "You'll still be close to the aircraft. Close enough to watch others fly them." The first year nearly broke her. She worked with her head down, swallowing the ache every time rotors spun without her inside. But something strange happened along the way. As she repaired, replaced, rebuilt, she began to understand the Apache in a way most pilots never did. She didn't just fly it in her mind, she felt it. She knew how it breathed, where it held tension, where it would fail if pushed too far. And she kept that knowledge to herself. Until the day everything went wrong. The mission was supposed to be routine. Escort and overwatch for a joint operation moving through hostile territory. 2 Apaches in the air, confidence high, risk low, or so command thought. Elena was in the hangar when the alarm sounded. Not the casual alert of a scheduled drill. This was sharp, urgent, real. "Mayday, mayday, mayday." The voice crackled through the speakers, distorted by static. And panic. "This is Viper 2-1, we're taking heavy fire, hydraulics compromised, pilot wounded, repeat, pilot wounded." Elena's heart slammed into her ribs. Viper 2-1 was Reynolds. She dropped the wrench and ran. The command center was chaos. Screens flickered with thermal images and terrain maps. Voices overlapped. Someone cursed. Someone else shouted for air support that wasn't available. The second Apache was already engaged, fuel running low. Viper 2-1 was losing altitude fast, spiraling toward a hostile zone. "They won't make it back," a junior officer said, pale. "Hydraulics are failing. They need another pilot," someone else argued. "Someone who knows the Apache." Silence followed, then laughter, bitter, helpless. "Who? Everyone's airborne or downrange." Elena stepped forward. "I can fly it." The room froze. A few heads turned slowly. Someone blinked. Another shook his head like he hadn't heard right. "You?" A major scoffed. "You're a mechanic." Elena met his eyes. "I'm Apache qualified. That was years ago. I never stopped." Before anyone could respond, a new voice cut through the room, calm, authoritative, impossible to ignore. Is that true? They turned as one. Rear Admiral Thomas Hale stood at the doorway, his presence commanding without effort. He was visiting the base for an inspection, a legend in naval aviation circles, a man who had seen wars come and go. His sharp eyes settled on Elena. She swallowed. Yes, sir. How many hours? 800 logged. Thousands more in simulators. And more time inside these airframes than anyone here. The room waited. Hale studied her for a long moment. Not with skepticism, but with curiosity. Can you bring my people home? Elena didn't hesitate. Yes, sir. Then get her in the air, Hale said. No one argued. Minutes later, Elena was strapped into the cockpit of the reserve Apache, the familiar weight settling around her like a memory she'd never lost. The systems came alive beneath her hands, responding as if they recognized her. As the helicopter lifted off, the radio crackled. Viper 2-1, this is Guardian 0. Hold on, I'm coming. Reynolds' voice came back weak, disbelief threading through the pain. Guardian 0, who the hell is? Focus, Elena said. I see you. The battlefield unfolded below her, smoke, heat signatures, flashes of enemy fire. She flew low, precise, reading the terrain like a language she was fluent in. Every maneuver was calculated, every burst of fire deliberate. She cleared a path, neutralized threats, guided the damaged Apache toward a narrow extraction corridor she knew would hold. Easy, she murmured, adjusting power, compensating for wind shear. I've got you. Reynolds' Apache touched down hard but intact. The moment both aircraft were safely clear, the tension snapped. Cheers erupted over the radio. Relief poured in waves. Back at base, silence greeted her landing. Elena climbed out of the cockpit slowly, legs trembling now that the adrenaline faded. She hadn't noticed the cut on her knuckle or the ache in her shoulders. She only noticed the way everyone stared. Rear Admiral Hale approached her, his expression unreadable. Reynolds followed, supported by medics, his face pale but eyes locked on her. Hale stopped in front of Elena. I've flown Apaches for over 30 years, he said evenly. I've trained some of the best pilots this country has ever produced. He paused. And that, he continued, was the finest Apache flying I've ever seen. The words hit harder than any applause. Reynolds swallowed. You're the mechanic, he said quietly. Elena nodded. I fix what others fly. He shook his head, something like humility cracking through his pride. You saved my life. She met his gaze, steady as ever. That's the job. The days that followed felt different. Quieter. Respect replaced mockery in small, noticeable ways. People used her rank. Asked her opinion. Listened. Elena didn't gloat. She didn't change. She simply kept working. Because she had learned something long before that day. Long before the laughter and the labels. That titles don't define capability. And sometimes, the strongest wings belong to those who were never expected to fly. And somewhere deep inside the hangar, beneath the hum of engines and the scent of oil and steel, the Apache waited, knowing exactly who its pilot was.